a portion of why there are signs up saying do not go past these points in the forest. Food for
Sure.
thought, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that absolutely exists in forests that receive a lot more rain, like, for instance, Oregon and Washington on the western side of the state, where they actually have rainforests. Not only do they have rainforests where plants grow very quickly and very densely, but they also have a very mountainous, rocky sort of terrain, which leads to, the tectonic activity, a lot of water that can lead to the formation of these crevices through various methods. So that makes sense that, in certain areas that would actually be a real peril. Um, yeah, if you were to step on what looked like the forest floor, but it's actually just some leaves and vines, covering up a chasm. Yeah, that would be very difficult to find someone. It would seem like they had just dropped off the face of the earth. Depending on the depth of the chasm and what you hit or get stuck in, you might end up being injured as well. Um, and then on top of that, now you've got this plant matter above you, which would absolutely hinder, thermal and overflights trying to find where you're at. As far as dogs, I'm not an expert on tracking dogs, but I would assume that being stuck down in that crevice, they potentially could find your trail, which would be nice, especially if it led them to that crevice. But you're not going to be emitting a lot more available scent for them actively to find, as you would by being up on their level versus down in some unknown depth of a crevice. That would probably make it harder for them to find you as well. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of natural explanations. Where we are in Ohio and Pennsylvania, Florida as well, a lot of areas where the bedrock is limestone, sinkholes are a very real phenomenon. And you'll be out in the woods and there'll be like a large bowl-shaped basin where basically the bedrock had been eroded away by subterranean water, um, and then eventually the rocks and dirt on top of it just cave in. That that can happen very quickly too. There was a case, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago about a man in Florida who he was asleep in his bed in his home and a sinkhole opened up right under the house and half the house got pulled into the sinkhole, and so did he. And apparently he was unrescuable even though everyone knew what had happened and knew that he had fallen in there. They just, I did never understood why, but they just could not rescue him. So yeah, I mean that potentially could happen, to your campsite, to you walking through the forest, just the wrong place at the wrong time. Um, yeah, there's a lot of different natural explanations for some of these